Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance. God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
I meant to have that. I meant to have this. Nope, not that. Or this. This one. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Alliance Guys live stream here on YouTube, twitch.tv, Kick. We're everywhere, baby. We're also right now on TikTok. So if you want to see just my face and not anybody else's, join us on TikTok at the Alliance blog. Of course, I'm with my pals, my friends, my confidants. I'm talking about Mr. DKM. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
And then we got Mr. Tired AF, Jaden. Jaden, how are you? It's this guy over here. This guy. There you go.
I know it's hard to believe, but I'm a little bit tired.
You're usually so filled with energy. What happened?
I've been setting up for an inventory for the last 2 weeks. And I was doing it today since 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, man.
I'm tired.
Sounds like you should be.
And then when I'm finally off this, I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah. Well, it's because you literally mainline, what is it, C4? What is that? Is that the energy drink you like, C4?
No, Ghost. But I honestly, right now, can you please just put some Dubby in one of those bags and put it right into my veins? One of those IV bags.
I mean, I could. I'm a little skeptical about sending a white powdery substance through the mail because either they're going to think it's cocaine or they're going to think it's what they used to mail people? Anthrax. Thank you. Why can I remember Anthrax?
It's a really good band. I don't know how can you remember them.
And they fall short on my list, I guess. So tonight we're going to spend some time looking at the history of the NWA. We're going to talk about an era of the NWA where a lot of people, there's this huge misconception that Billy Corgan has rescued the NWA, that it was nothing after 1993 when WCW and New Japan and CMLL all left the NWA. There's this wild misconception that the NWA just ceased to exist until Billy Corgan purchased the rights to the NWA in 2017. We know that that's not true, mostly because we've been living through this NWA through the wilderness years, if you will, all the way to what is now the Lightning One era. But through those years, the NWA had kind of gone through different transformations. There was always that main ownership group, but around 2000, I think one is when they entered into that licensing agreement with the Jarretts, both Jeff and Jerry Jarrett, when they were starting their new pay-per-view wrestling company, Total Nonstop Action. And during that time, Total Nonstop Action licensed both the World's Heavyweight Championship and the World Tag Team titles with the intent on promoting those titles as their own, and would also, I think originally, and DK, you could correct me, originally those belts were supposed to be not only showcased on the pay-per-views, but then stars from the NWA were supposed to be brought in to work those shows as well, right?
I don't know how much stars of the NWA were supposed to come in and work it, but I know the idea was they'd be traveling to the different territories to hold the pay-per-views, and then that would give their guys work over the weekends. They would make the guys available to the local promoter.
And then, Jaden, I know that you were very much involved with the NWA back in those days. Did you ever see any of the TNA stars come to your local area back in in New Jersey or on any of those promotions that were affiliated with the NWA at the time?
When NWA first started, the promotion that was the NWA affiliate in the New Jersey area was called NWA Over the Top. There was Biggie Biggs. There was Crazy Ivan. There was Jack Victory, but I don't remember seeing any Impact guys. But then a little bit later, there was this promotion called NWA Shockwave, and they had a ton of NWA Impact and TNA guys.
Yeah. That was a little bit later, though, and I mean, we'll get more into that as well. There's also some NWA news we're going to talk about, of course, and in fact, tonight, the World is a Vampire Tour is happening right now in Alabama, and of course, I don't know if you guys heard this, but on social media, they announced tonight's main event for that event will be the EC3 wrestling against Kerry Morton. Obviously, it's a non-title match because EC3 is not a junior heavyweight, but that's the match that will headline tonight's The World is a Vampire. And for those of you who aren't familiar, The World is a Vampire is the tour that the Smashing Pumpkins have currently been on since the beginning of August. That actually goes through September, and they're actually have 4 nights where they're including wrestling from the NWA, and that will be tonight in Alabama, and then there's a few I believe there's another show on Saturday, Sunday, and then I think Tuesday of next week. And that takes them to the the 75th anniversary show. So it's pretty interesting that Kerry Morton will be wrestling against EC3. DKM, I know it's, they always talk about Styles as making the match. EC3 has been not defined as a face or a heel. We know that Kerry Morton is mostly a heel with the Southern Six. What do you think about this matchup? Is this a match that you'd want to see?
I don't know. There's one I would want to see, but it's one I wouldn't mind seeing if I was at a car,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think I would be calling for it on on a pay-per-view or anything like that. Except for circumstances of, let's say, EC3 wins the world title and Kerry Morton's still the junior heavyweight champion, then you might want to just see the 2 world champions face off. But yeah, just in general, Kerry Morton versus EC3. Sure, if it's on a card, I probably go, ooh, I want to see that one. But yeah, I would never call for it.
When was the last time the NWA World's Junior Heavyweight Champion had a shot at the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship? The only one I think of last was Denny Brown versus Ric Flair.
Yeah.
No, actually,
it's a great question.
I think it was Rob Conway versus Chase Owens.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I remember that one too.
I remember the match, but I don't remember if Chase was the junior heavyweight champion at the time.
I think he was, because they kind of did make a deal out of the fact that it was world champion versus world. I think they wrestled again and he wasn't. But I think the first time they faced each other, he was the junior heavyweight champion.
He wasn't champion yet, but Jason Kincaid was in that 8/9 way at the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators event. So the people who have been junior heavyweight champions have gotten world championship matches. Carry your favorite Ricky Morton.
Yeah, Ricky Morton actually challenged for the world heavyweight title several times.
Yes.
Before, including, I think, the year before he won the junior heavyweight title.
I think there's a match out there too where he wrestled. I know he wrestled Dick Bachman, but I think there's a match where he wrestled against Harley Race. I just don't remember if Harley was champion.
I don't remember.
This was before the Rock and Roll Express, obviously.
I'm trying to look up to see if they actually had a matchup. Now, I do understand that cage match is a very limited resource. Of course, it's all backed by people who contributed to it. I guess it's not like an official 100% accurate thing. But so far, I have not been able to find a matchup between Owens and Conway. I'm going to look the other way here and see if I can find it a different way. But so far, I haven't been able to see a matchup between Rob Conway and Chase Owens.
I remember the matchup, but that's about as much as I remember about the matchup.
Maybe it's because I was typing Rob Conway instead of I was typing Rob Conway instead of Ron. Wait, now I'm saying it backwards. I was typing Ron instead of Rob, so maybe that's why I didn't find it, because I'm an idiot.
Ron Burgundy versus Chase Owens. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So when Rob Conway defended his title against Chase Owens on November 15th, 2014, keep that date in mind, November 15th, 2014. He was World Junior Heavyweight Champion at that time. So that would be the only time. Conway,
you get these great historical facts only here on the Alliance, guys.
Right. That guy, Ron Conway. Somebody on my Twitch stream just said that I look like, not Twitch, excuse me, TikTok, said that I look like Kevin Owens. So I get that at least once a night when I do my live streams. I don't know. I don't really think I look like him, but enough people say it that I'm starting to believe I do.
I think in pictures you do more than, say, real life.
I wish where's the drawing? A friend of mine, a family friend of mine, drew a picture of me. It's my Instagram profile photo, but it looks like Kevin Owens a lot. Anyways, all right. So I lost all train of thought here. Let's try to get back to it.
Never mind.
Easy for you to say.
Train of thought derailed. Millions killed. Film at 11.
Yeah, right. Something else that's happening this weekend is that's this weekend. Yeah, Wrestle Bash 2, not far from you, Jaden, at the Fairfield Hotel and Suites in Fairfield, New Jersey. Our women's tag team champions, M95, will be appearing. I don't know if there's an actual wrestling show associated with this or if it's just a convention and autograph signing type thing. But, for those of you who are in the New Jersey area and want to see Maddie Rinkowski and Misa Kate, Misa Kate's starting to grow on me. I'm starting to like Misa Kate more and more. She threw out the first pitch at a Cubs game earlier this week.
Big Cubs fan.
Yeah, big Cubs fan. And she's the third Chicago-based NWA wrestler to throw out the first pitch. The first one being everyone's favorite masked wrestler, Scion. He threw it out with the mask and the cape. He threw out the title. Colt Cabana threw out the title. Sorry. Threw out the first pitch. Colt Cabana did that too when he was the NWA national champion. So there's a precedent there. And then later, Misa Kate did it. I know that Joe Alonzo is scheduled to be doing it at some point in the future as well.
When are you going to do it for your? I don't know. What are they now? The Angels,
the Serafinas, the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Probably never.
Their official name.
Yeah, they're full. The official name is now it's just the Los Angeles Angels. But when when they first transitioned from the Anaheim Angels to the Los Angeles Angels, the city of Anaheim made them keep Anaheim in the name. It's part of their licensing agreement, I guess.
So wait. So they're the Los Angeles Angels. So they're the Angels.
Yep, the Angels.
Yes, and what's really ironic about it is the name comes from years and years ago, before there was the Major League Baseball made it out to the West Coast. There was the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, and there was a team that was called the Los Angeles Angels back then, and they were actually owned by the Wrigley family from Chicago. Wrigley Field is owned by the company that makes the gum, Double Mint and Juicy Fruit and all that stuff. And so they owned that team, the minor league Angels, and then sold that team to the O'Malley family, who used to own the Dodgers. The Dodgers bought them with the sole purpose of having the rights to build a Major League Baseball team in California, and ran them out one more year, those Los Angeles Angels, and then gave them the old boot, and then the Dodgers took over. So the Angels, as we know it, used to be associated with the Cubs, and then became associated with the Dodgers before they moved to Salt Lake. They moved to. I think they're still in existence in Texas somewhere, I think.
Maybe.
So there's your baseball news for the night. And I'm sure that's what everyone here is for, is, baseball. But yeah, so this weekend, go see M95 in New Jersey. And then the other thing that I saw that I thought was interesting is that we have an upcoming show next month, actually, in September, in Williamstown, New Jersey, on Glassboro Road. Is that anywhere near you, Jaden?
Williamstown is actually very close. Where was the other place?
The first place was
Fairfield. That's like 2.5. That's like 2 hours plus away.
Okay, well, maybe that's not a good drive for you to go see M95. But if you want to go see our boy Colby Carino, who might be World Junior Heavyweight Champion when he steps into the Nostalgia Ultra. I don't even. That's the weirdest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
I didn't pick it.
So there's your NWA news and information. Of course, for more news and information, you can visit alliance-wrestling.com, which is your number one source for news and information for the national.
Can you put that graphic back up? I'm trying to see if I recognize anybody other than Colby.
I don't.
No, I don't recognize one wrestler on there.
You would think, especially if it's near your neck of the woods. I mean, Goldie, anybody from the Monster Factory, right?
The guy that has the hair over one of his eyes.
Yeah.
On the right, like in the second thing. Yeah, there's about 3 Texas wrestlers that look like that.
Oh, you recognize some of them?
No, I'm just saying there's like 3 Texas wrestlers that look like that.
Oh, got it. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Okay.
On the bottom left, I think that might be Hyena Hex. Well, that's the only one I kind of recognize. Maybe. I'm not even sure.
Hey, I see a guy with a chain in his mouth. Didn't you have a guy with a chain in his mouth once?
Not that guy.
Oh, man.
I mean, how many people put chains in their mouth in the wrestling?
More than you think.
More than I would care.
Hey, our buddy Chris Drummond is going to be at the All-Star Junior Saturday and New Japan versus Impact on Sunday out at the ECW Arena. I don't even think he gave you an invite, Jaden. What's going on there?
Is he back? I thought he was living in Las Vegas or something like that. He's back in the Philadelphia area.
Big Chris, dog, where are you living these days, man? What city are you in?
Do you want to know something about Philadelphia? If somebody dropped a carpet bombed Philadelphia, to do about $20-25 billion of improvements.
Oh God! I've been to Philly, and I kind of thought it was a nice city. It was very quaint.
Yeah, we were in the only nice place. The rest of it looks like a Banksy art piece of art, but after he sold out.
That dip cone was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
Uh,
Gotta love that Mr. Softy.
Mr. Softy. That's what these. Never mind. No, never mind. All right, so let's get to it. We said we are going to talk about Jeff Jarrett, and why don't we? Why?
Why are we talking about Jeff Jarrett? Did he die?
No, but Jeff Jarrett's a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion and held that belt 6 times there. That's him holding my belt right there. They're 10 pounds of replica. That's him signing autographs for somebody else. And if you look around there, I mean, there's old Dory Funk Sr. You got Tim Storm in the back over there. And
Marty, the most popular wrestling spouse in all of professional wrestling.
I heard
nobody's more loved.
Maybe Jeff Jarrett.
Maybe Hitler.
Oh, no. You said it, not me, brother. But the reason why we're talking about Jeff Jarrett and
Who?
Double J Jeff Jarrett.
How do you spell it?
That's JEFFJAR. That's 2 R's, isn't it? ETT. Jeff
You
Jarrett.
really screwed that up. First of all, you can't say without the ha-has. It's JEFF, ha-ha. JARRETT. That's double J, ha-ha. Jeff Jarrett.
I can't do the ha-has. If I do that, then people think I'm Santa Claus.
That's ho-hos.
Ho-hos.
If you want to do lots of ho-hos, I got them all over New Jersey.
I'm a married man. Chris True Van Vantage School says he's also a friend of Taylor Swift, whoever that is.
That is true. Taylor Swift used to babysit his girls.
Yeah, I've heard that story before. Could you imagine if you the young woman who is watching your kids grows up to be a country music star? Like, do you get any like perks for that? Like, can you call her up and be like, hey, can you watch the kids while we go to your concert?
No. The real thing is how much it's got to bite you that you know that she's worth, like 20 times the money.
Does it bite you though? Yeah, she's
2,000 maybe.
She's a brand unto herself now. She's bigger than the Super Bowl.
She's no Bad Bunny.
Oh, actually, I think she literally crashed Ticketmaster going on sale. So I don't know if she's.
Yeah, Bad Bunny's the #1 musician in all of music right now. He's the biggest thing in music right now. It's hard to believe, but
it is hard to believe, but I'll take it. By the way, Chris True Van Vantage is my childhood friend. That's how I was able to say that last name, because he's actually my childhood friend.
Speaking of that, where did Chris Dog live?
He never had. He thought you were getting too personal with him, and he took off.
And he's probably embarrassed to be from Philadelphia.
Spend my days working hard on the go, but the hands on a clock keep spinning too slow. I can't wait to be alone with my baby tonight.
Between that and the Dukes of Hazzard theme song, they're the only country songs I know.
Ooh, wait. Those are the only ones? What about Rap is Crap?
Wash your legs. You won't have that problem.
Shit.
Save me, I'm falling.
You kind of look like you are falling. All right, so let's talk about Jeff Jarrett, a 6-time.
Okay, Jeff Jarrett.
Let's talk about the 6-time NWA World Champion. Now, there's something
not 7.
Yeah, because let's not take into consideration the bullshit that is the whole Philadelphia, jeez. The whole Puerto Rico thing where he gave up the title because there was a fear of a riot. Like, I hate when people bring stuff up like that and say, oh, no, he lost the title because, dude, if he didn't do that, he was going to cause an international incident. Or I guess Puerto Rico's still part of the United States.
That's more like an American incident, isn't it?
Yeah. Either way, someone was going to die. And we know in Puerto Rico, they don't have a problem with killing somebody.
Yeah, and they can, no, that's for sure. And look, he got the title back that night. They just didn't tell the crowd.
Right.
And everything. It's like, if you're going to count that, then Ric Flair is like a 423-time champion. Because how many nights did Ric Flair lose the title? And, Dusty Rhodes probably isn't that far behind him because Dusty Rhodes beat Ric Flair for the title about 300 times. And, had to take him back. So, I don't even really recognize the last title change between Ric Flair and Harley Race. That was a lot of smarks who were trying to show off and didn't even have all the information.
So Jeff Jarrett.
Okay, I want to throw out a statistic to you guys. All right. TNA controlled the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for 1,789 days. Of those, Jeff Jarrett, who was the main booker, he oversaw the moron. I won't call him what Jim Cornette calls him because I want Jay to keep his money.
You talking about Vinny Rue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff Jarrett was champion for 1,006 of those days. So he held the title over 56% of the time that it was in TNA. Oddly, he never held the TNA title.
That's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. So
it's like rain on a wedding day.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it like a free ride when you're already there?
Already paid.
Oh,
Come on,
whatever.
get the lyrics right. Anyway, so here's the question. So this breaks down to the multi-levels of questions and intrigues. We've seen this a lot. When a person is head of the promotion, they tend to put the title on themselves because who can they trust more with the belt than themselves or a family member? You know, Fritz was a multiple-time America's champion in Texas. Vern Gagne held the AWA World Heavyweight Championship.
So did son-in-law Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah. And it goes on and on. So
On and on.
So the question is should Jarrett have put the title on himself and held it so much during that time? Should he have been a 6-time champion? Or should he have kept the title on some of the others? Here's actually a list of people that held the title in TNA. AJ Styles 3 times before he was anybody. Abyss. Christian Cage held it twice. Jeff Jarrett held it 6 times. Ken Shamrock held it once for 49 days and left promotion immediately. Raven held it once. Rhino held it once for 2 days. Ron Killings held it twice. And Sting held it once for 4 weeks.
Somebody messing with their microphone?
Yeah, it's me.
Mute yourself.
Click, 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 click. All right. So those are some statistics. So Jay,
I didn't mind him. I don't understand why everybody hated him. He wasn't a bad champion. He wasn't the greatest, but he was good for what he was. And it's kind of like the prequels of Star Wars. People now see his reign and they see it in a completely different light. He's more popular now than he was when he was champion.
well, there's some truth to that.
I didn't mind him being champion. He was a former Intercontinental champion, a former WCW champion, former USWA champion, former NWA North American champion, former WCCW light heavyweight champion. Don't tell me how many times he's been Southern or champion or whatever. He's held belts everywhere. He's got a good pedigree. The problem is people thought if he was given a stupid country music gimmick with an even more stupid outfit, and his father and later him owned the promotion, and people hated him for it because they wanted it on their favorite guys. But he was never, ever a bad champion.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Should he have dropped the guitar gimmick when he left WWE?
Yes. Billy Joe Travis, Honky Tonk Man. He didn't need to be acting like with that stupid guitar gimmick. Slap nuts.
So do you think he was the best choice for champion?
Not always, not all of his reigns, but he wasn't a bad choice. He wasn't. I mean, honestly, they really should have got rid of Vince Russo and then just pushed for the future. AJ Styles was great. Ron Killing started off good until they made him a champion. Then they kind of screwed him up after that. I really, really wanted Alpha Male Monty Brown to win it because I just liked him a lot. Glad Billy Gunn and Road Dogg didn't hold it, but
what about Abyss?
At the time, I think it was like one of those changes they did to because something else was supposed to happen and it didn't work. Abyss was a good Impact TNA wrestler. He was over at the time. He didn't really get stupid until they started doing really stupid things later, like with his twin brother. Yeah, I agree, Big Chris Dog. I liked Monty Brown. Monty Brown had something special, and they really dropped the ball.
I think with Monty Brown, I think everyone, even looking back, through that 2020 lens, like he was so over with the crowd, and it like him, the two guys that I feel like the Impact really missed the boat on, or TNA, was Samoa Joe and Monty Brown, and I think Monty Brown should have won that world title at least once, if not twice. And I think you could have made a case for Samoa Joe winning the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship when he was dominating the X division. There was that scene, and I will never forget this. It's like completely melted into my mind. One of the coolest things ever was Jarrett was in the middle of the ring in that 6-sided ring, and I think it was on Fox Sports at the time. And he was talking about how he was the king of the mountain. And then all of a sudden you hear Samoa Joe's theme music hit, and he has the X Division title right around his shoulder, and he's stomping out to the ring, and he looks at Jarrett, and Jarrett looks at him, and Jarrett looks legitimately scared, and you're like, what the hell's going to happen here? And then Joe, like I think Joe kind of hits him with the shoulder as he walks into the ring, and that was about it. That was the only interaction I think those two ever had. But I felt like at that moment, that would have been an excellent time to put Jarrett into a feud with Samoa Joe, where you could have done the whole X Division versus World Champion thing. There could have been a lot of money to be made there. Getting back to Monty Brown, hell yeah, Monty Brown should have been World Champion. I don't know why they didn't pull the trigger on Monty Brown. He was so good in Impact and so disappointing when he went to the WWE as the original MVP. Right? Like they called him something like MVP.
No, it was Marcus Corvon or something like that.
Okay, you're right. Marcus Corvon.
The original MVP was Abe Knuckleball Schwartz.
Fair enough. But yeah, I really felt like Monty Brown would have been a guy to go with. And then, some of the names that you guys mentioned, like, Shamrock, he wasn't there for very long. You couldn't do a whole lot with him. They gave Raven almost like a joke run.
88 days.
Yeah. And then they took the belt off of him in Canada, if you remember that one. In Scott D'Amore's BCW at the time.
Yep.
The other statistic that I saw on Jarrett that I thought was worth mentioning is look, as it goes for an NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion now, of course, the belt was licensed to TNA. So obviously any of those matches were going to be more reserved for TNA wrestling, but there was lots of times that that world title sat idle on weekends where NWA events were running. Jeff Jarrett defended that title about 5 times in an NWA ring as an NWA World Champion. And going back to 2003, he defended against Rod Steele at the NWA Florida, at an NWA Florida event. Then he defended it against AJ Styles at Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, but that was in South Korea. That was kind of a big deal. He defended against Ron Killings at Cyberspace in New Jersey. He defended against Slick Wagner Brown at Cyberspace, New Jersey, and then against BG James in NWA Wrestling Birmingham in Alabama. And so of the 4 years that the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship was controlled by Impact TNA, there was only like 5 times that Jarrett defended that title in an NWA ring. Jaden, do you think that hurts the credibility as an NWA World Champion, or do you think that it's just it's not a big deal?
If they didn't have like some kind of pseudo television, I think it would have hurt worse. It's the NWA promoter's fault. I don't know what Jarrett was charging, but it should have been the NWA's promoter to book the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Stupidest thing I ever saw. There's no bylaw to not make him do so. Should have been able to put a $500 deposit down. If you didn't book the champion, you lost your deposit.
The NWA was always horrible at booking their own champions.
Yes.
Always. In the later days, after when you get past WCW, they were always one of the most successful champions in Adam Pearce defended his title far more outside the NWA than he did inside the NWA. And
there's some truth to that.
So
the NWA Dog Championship was defended more in NWA promotions on the East Coast than I think the world title was.
Now, part of the problem was, of course, like when AJ Styles was the world champion one time, Wildside did book him for a world title defense, and then Jarrett won the title beforehand and sent a video saying he wasn't going to go to Wildside to defend the title because they didn't deserve to see him. And so, TNA kind of did what they wanted with the belt, and I don't know that some of the promoters they weren't going to start advertising somebody and then not have them show up or not have them show up as a champion. I know one promoter in particular told me that. So, and let's be honest, most of the NWA promoters at this time didn't promote shit.
Yeah, that's true too.
I watched a lot of their stuff. They did promote a lot of shit.
No, they didn't promote shit. They had affiliates and associates who promoted shit. And so a lot of them, and I think we can all think of one off the top of their head, was, content just to sit back and let TNA send them money for the title.
Who was that?
Oh, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, okay, Mom. Sounds like something my mom would say.
The TNA title was defended more in New Jersey than the NWA title during the Impact era, or the TNA era.
Was it really?
Yeah, Christian Cage wrestled a lot up in North Jersey to the various promotions as the TNA champion.
Well, and I do know this, again, when I was compiling my stats here, when you look at the World's Heavyweight Championship during the TNA era, and again, these notes can't be 100% accurate because it's from Cage Match, and there's a lot of inaccuracies. There's a lot of not full information or just stuff that never got reported. But from what Cage Match states, there was roughly about 11 title matches for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship in an NWA ring from 2002 to 2006. And if you don't mind, I'm going to list them now. Back in October 26, 2002, Ron Killings wrestled against Hot Stuff Hernandez at the NWA 54th anniversary show in Texas. January 25th, 2003, Jeff Jarrett defends against Rod Steele in NWA Florida. August 5th, 2003, AJ Styles wrestles Chance Prophet for NWA Bluegrass in Kentucky. May 14th, 2004, AJ Styles defends against Danny Daniels at No Limits Wrestling in Illinois. The aforementioned match in South Korea between Jarrett and Styles, that happened on January 22nd, 2005. Again, Jarrett in Cyberspace, February 5th, 2005 against Ron Killings. and again against Slick Wagner Brown on April 30th. Again, Styles reclaiming the title would face Lex Lovett on June 10th, 2005 at an NWA Florida IPW joint show in Florida. Raven had one NWA title defense at Pro Wrestling Evolution in Georgia. They were the NWA Anarchy affiliate. And then Jarrett wrestling in Birmingham, Alabama against BG James. And then the last one was Christian Cage against Jay Lethal at Liberty States Wrestling, which was also, as we know, that's part of the NWA Pro Wrestling circuit that Dave Marquez had built. And that was in 2006, April 4th. So that's not a lot of NWA World Championship matches, I think, at that time and space. Consider all things considering, like you said, Jaden, any one of the promoters could book these guys. But, contrary to that opinion, I do know that Dave Marquez said he tried very hard to book Jeff Jarrett on his shows. He tried very hard to get the World's Heavyweight Championship on his events. And that's part of the reason why they wanted to end that licensing agreement with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, because they couldn't get access to the world champions.
Okay.
Well,
I always
TNA very much wanted to make it sound like the NWA had not existed until they revived it. There was that big gimmick thing where they went. Who was it? Hashimoto, with Dan Severn,
right,
in the fast count, which I don't remember if it was really fast or not. I've seen a clip of it. So they took Dan Severn out there to do it. That was just to get the belt back and off of him. And then they quote unquote stripped Severn of the title because he wasn't available for the first episode of TNA, although the fact that he had never been asked was totally irrelevant.
And I think I
read that the TNA had already said that they were going to fill the title, in whatever BS way that they filled it. And then they did the same thing with the tag championships. Some team, they were like twin brothers,
the Shane twins, who wrestled as the Johnsons on TNA.
Yeah.
When did Impact actually become normal? And it's actually weird to say TNA.
I don't know. But
around the time Owens was champion.
So they won the titles, and then the NWA made this BS thing about there was some kind of controversy about how they won the titles. And I don't even remember what the BS excuse was. And so they stripped him of the titles and vacated the titles to let TNA fill them. And, so TNA puts them on like, who was it? Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles, and then split them up.
Yeah, it was AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. They defeated Bruce and Lenny Lane. Do you remember that tag team?
Yes, I do.
The Rainbow Express. That certainly wouldn't fly in today's world. And
Lenny didn't last very long, but Bruce did for a while. And then he was basically a drag queen.
Bruce was?
Yeah, they would take him out. He'd come to the ring in a ball gown and who was he though? What was his name?
Queenie.
What?
Queenie.
Oh yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
And then they brought in, you just had your interview with our former world champion, junior champion, Darrell Clark. He was the junior heavyweight champion, and TNA brought him in, refused to recognize the title.
Yep.
Wouldn't say anything about it. If I remember correctly, he lost. And that was never heard from again. So, yeah, and then like Jaden said, here the team that were the tag team champions were brought in to look like men in giant condoms. Thank you, Vince Russo.
Was that a Russo idea?
What do you think?
I don't know, man.
They should have debuted at Hard Times.
Yeah, no kidding. I tell you what, I'll tell you, it wasn't a Jerry Jarrett idea.
I heard they had a lot of stiff matches.
You're going to kill me, Jaden.
Would you believe that?
But I believe what? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway. So, blah, 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 yuck, 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 yuck.
So, then would you say that Jeff Jarrett as NWA World Champion hurt the NWA? Or do you feel like he benefited the NWA?
I think Vince Russo as a booker hurt the NWA.
But he was only booking Impact. Does that count as ruining the NWA? Like, was there any delineation?
No, Vince Russo was booking from the beginning. They just wouldn't say it.
No. And what I'm saying is he was only booking that program, though. That he was only booking that 1 hour of pay-per-view weekly or until they got on Fox Sports.
That they had the rights for the world's titles, both tag team and heavyweights, and screwed it up every chance they could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Booked to the former champions as condoms.
I think. I mean, this is one of those things. It got the titles out there, but I don't think it benefited the name, the NWA, anymore. I don't, because the promotions weren't using that thing, and the promoters only cared about their local guys anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I think the only people that benefited was after the agreement was reworked, after a lot of people forget TNA went broke in 3 months. And yes, I know people tell me all the time, they come back behind and they go, well, that's just because they lost their financial booking backing. No, you don't understand. They had a budget and they had blown through a year's budget in 3 months because they thought they were going to be selling tickets to these big pay-per-view events every week for $20 and $30. And then they found out when they did their first one that nobody was going to pay that amount of money when they could watch it on pay-per-view for $10. And so they started doing free shows. In Nashville. So, I mean, overall, I don't know that it was a great benefit for the promoters. It was probably neat for people who liked the NWA and wanted to see the, NWA wrestling, but I don't know that, in the greater scheme of things. I mean, you pointed out at the beginning, a lot of people forget that time. It was like, well, the NWA hadn't meant anything since WCW left or it became WCW or whatever. And so, I mean, most fans today, you bring up this period and they're like, what? You go, hey, Jeff Jarrett was a 6-time champion. They go, who? What? When? When was Jarrett champion?
They seem to remember Jarrett as champion, but they don't seem to remember people like AJ Styles.
They don't what?
AJ Styles. I mentioned AJ Styles was a former NWA champion, and somebody looked at me like I had 7 heads. Like, really?
Yeah. Well, same thing with Ron Killings.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild to me because again, and our pals over at the other Alliance guys kind of brought this point up, and it made a lot of sense to me. The NWA, especially Billy Corgan's version of this NWA, very much picks and chooses what era they want to recognize. So as much as they don't, Dave Marquez even said recently on one of his social media posts that they didn't like him referring to Colt Cabana as a former 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion because it didn't help this version of the brand. They wanted that direct connection to Ric Flair. But when they did that, then they kind of also they brought in Jack Stain and oh, well, yeah, okay. So he's the guy that Tim Storm beat to become world champion. And they acknowledge it, but they really don't. And then I've never heard anybody in the Lightning One era mention Adam Pearce, even when they were using his phrase for the 10 pounds of gold, Sweet Charlotte. That was an Adam Pearceism. That wasn't used before anyone before Adam Pearce. So it's really weird on what they acknowledge and how they acknowledge things.
It wasn't used by anybody outside of that group of people who were with Pearce.
Right.
Lightning One likes to steal terms that other people coin, like the Murdochs.
Murdochs, without proper credit.
My microphone stand broke.
Way to go, dude.
Yeah. I'm trying to fix it, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong here.
You're trying to fix it. That's what you're doing wrong.
Well, we can't all just go buy new things, DK. We have to fix them sometimes.
Call Wrecking Ball. I heard he's a good fixer.
Yeah. I think I'd have better luck with Vinny. Look at those stylish glasses. Wow.
No, I'm
I
trying to
can't see the glasses. I'm trying to see the gray hairs.
Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hold on. I'm trying to see what Jay's actually doing over there. So he claims he's working on a microphone stand. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Sir, what are you implying?
That you're jacking off.
Jesus Christ. The first time Bernard Thompson has been in the chat in years, and the first thing he hears you say is that I'm jacking off. That's how we get demonetized.
Jacking it.
I'm not sure that would get us demonetized nearly as much as
everything that I keep saying.
With it.
I'll make sure to do it on camera. Wait,
Save that for your OnlyFans.
Just $9.95 a month.
Okay. Hey, here's a question for you, though, since we're talking about the Jeff Jarrett era as champion.
Sure.
The product that AJ Styles, of course, has gone on to become. He was a 3-time NWA champion, a 2-time TNA champion, a 2-time IWGP champion. Well, it's not my fault he didn't turn it down. And
hit the mute button quick.
Yeah, exactly. 2-time IWGP champion and a 2-time WWE champion, including holding the title for over a year.
Yeah.
Back when that was impressive. So is he the only one to come out of those early days that became a big star?
Bobby Roode did a pretty good job.
Yeah, Bobby Roode. What about Samoa? Is Samoa Joe too early or too late for that to be considered?
I don't remember when he came in.
I can find out for you. I'm good at looking up things on the internet.
Yeah, I do think it wasn't NWA when Joe was there when it was NWA, but his biggest push, I think, was posts.
Well, I mean,
Gage kind of worked out something well with it.
He held the TNA title once. And some of it's, what calculates a big star, too. I mean, Samoa Joe was, I think, the first 2-time champion in NXT, but injuries kept him from winning either of the big ones on the main roster.
So Samoa Joe challenged for the World's Heavyweight Championship, but he never won the title. He challenged Christian Cage. In fact, there was a big feud between him and Christian Cage for a while. He was part of that 4-way at Victory Road in 2006 when Sting beat Christian Cage, Samoa Joe, and Scott Steiner. But I'm trying to find out when he debuted, and I think I'll let you know when that is in just a second here. His first TNA match. Oh wow, he has quite a few of them. His first TNA match goes all the way back to 2005 at Slammiversary when he defeated Sonjay Dutt.
So I mean, he was there for it, but did he help? When did he first win the X title?
let's see. He won the X Division title. He beat Christopher Daniels in 2006 at Final Resolution. No, excuse me. He beat AJ Styles for that title at Turning Point 2005, December of 2005.
So he did hold an NWA title of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, he challenged for the world's heavyweight title multiple times. He was in the number one contender gauntlet, but of course, Rhino was the one to win that one. But in a sense, he never held an actual NWA title while in TNA because the X Division title was always considered a TNA title, not an NWA title. The only NWA title that Samoa Joe did hold, right? He did hold the NWA Intercontinental Tag Team titles in 01 when he teamed with Keiji Sakota, and then they lost those titles to Masato Tanaka and Shinjiro Otani, and then that was it. They had the titles, Keiji Sakota and Samoa Joe, and they would lose them to, like I said, Masato Tanaka and Otani.
Well, I mean, they did reference the title as the NWA TNA X Championship or whatever. I know the original belt had NWA on it. I don't know what it had by the time Joe held it. But so that's kind of interesting. So
real quick, Bernard, who's joined the chat, said Jarrett was a multi-time Mid-American heavyweight champion, an AWA Southern Tag Team champion, a cyberspace champion. He did hold the NWA North American champion while wrestling for the WWE, and ended up holding the Vendetta Pro Wrestling Western States Heavyweight Championship. So he did hold a lot of belts within the NWA, but I would also argue, like, never defending that world title. Never defending. What is that noise coming from? Is that you? That's you, DK. That you never having defended the world heavyweight championship, or rarely defending it in an NWA ring, I think kind of hurt his stature as world's heavyweight champion. What do you think?
yeah, I mean, there are different things that you go on here. You look, it's kind of like Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat was a great NWA wrestler. I don't know that you could say Ricky Steamboat was a great NWA champion.
Okay.
But then he held the title for what, 2 months? Not very long. And so all his wife's fault, apparently, from what I hear.
Well, she was, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything. That's called slander.
Not if it's true.
Hey, J.A. Double Den. Jeez. What did you think? Do you think that Jarrett's accomplishments outside of Impact made him a better NWA World Champion, or does it really change that?
I mean, I don't think being an NWA Western States Heritage Champion made him a better NWA champion. But again, he was a star. Wasn't the biggest star, but he was a star, and he had talent. People forget that until he became good old Double J, he was actually a very popular, beloved wrestler.
A huge baby face in the Memphis area.
He also in Texas, and even when he wrestled for AWA, he was very over as a white meat babyface junior heavyweight.
What about who on the roster do you think would make more sense to put I guess we were tiptoeing around that, but I don't think we had mentioned Monty Brown, but was there anyone else that you could see filling that void as world heavyweight champion besides Jarrett? Because I mean, that's part of it too. And DK alluded to that. Like, you gotta trust the guy that you're putting the belt on, and you can always bet on yourself. But was there anybody who would have made more sense at the time? I mean, they did have that revolving door of talent that used to be associated with WCW. Like, they had Hall and Nash come in at various points. They had Savage come in for like a few minutes, but they always had that revolving door of talent showing up. would you have put the title on someone like a Scott Hall or a Kurt Hennig when they were there?
I wanted Kurt Hennig to win. I really, really did. I wanted Kurt Hennig to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. So I don't know if he was trustworthy enough. I don't know if he was sober or clean enough. But I really wanted. I think Kurt Hennig would have made the perfect NWA champion.
No pun intended.
Well, maybe slightly intended. There were some names that came through you could have put title on. I think part of the problem then also is, though, who do you do you build somebody up? Nobody, when Jarrett was champion for over half the time, and his title reign with Rhino was 2 days, in between. And so some of the thing goes, who do you, who do you trust? Should AJ Styles have been given 6-7 months as champion to do more? Because he was really about the only other one that held the title for any time besides Jarrett, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the stars that they were using at the time. Like, anybody really was over enough. I mean, I didn't think Road Dogg was over enough. I don't think Buff Bagwell was over enough. I don't think Grandmaster Sexay would have made a great NWA champion.
Well, not when you say it like that.
That's how they said it. Who was around then? There was just a quality. He may have been the best option. You may be correct. He may have been the best option, unless they would have booked, say, AJ Styles better. Again, I would have liked Kurt Hennig to be. I guess it was something I just wanted to see. Maybe nobody else agrees with me, but Scott Hall, if he was reliable, I think he could have been a good NWA champion.
Okay, so let me. There's a cool little feature on. Cage Match where you could go to the promotion and look at their all-time roster, and you could do that per year. So, in 2002, they had over 151 wrestlers work their shows, and I'm not going to read all of them.
Puppet could have been the champion.
What's that?
Puppet or the hardcore midget.
AJ Styles, Chris Harris, James Storm, Jerry Lynn, Sonny Siaki, Jorge Estrada, Ron Killings, Ron Harris, Amazing Red, BG James, Joel and Jose Maximo, Kid Cash, Slash, Brian Lawler, Bruce, Brian Lee, Don Harris, Scott Hall, Cassidy O'Reilly, Chase Stevens, Elix Skipper, the Hot Shots, Jimmy Yang, Malice. They did have a hot program with Malice for like 5 minutes. The SATs, Six Pac, Ace Steel, Tony Mamaluke, Bo Dup, David Young, the Disciples of the New Church, El Gran Apollo, Easy Money, Jimmy Rave, K Crush, Shamrock, Monty Brown, Quiet Storm, Chris Devine, Lenny, Norman Smiley, Taylor Vaughn, Buff Bagwell, Chris Michaels, Christopher Daniels, Derek King, the Briscoe brothers, Rick Michaels, Crimson Dragon, Derek Wilde, Flex, Hermie Sadler. Wasn't he the NASCAR driver?
Yes, he was in a tag match.
Psychosis, Rick Santel, Rod Johnson, Sabu, Adam Windsor. Everybody loved Adam Windsor, right? Adam Jacobs, Alan Funk, Alex Winters, Alexis Lurie. Oh, that's a woman, though. Eric Andrews, Azriel.
I liked Alexis Lurie, but she was not making James.
Yeah. Big Bully Douglas, not to be confused with Big Bully Dudley. CM Punk, Chris Vaughn, Christian York, Devin Storm, Disco Inferno, Dory Funk Jr., Ed Ferreira. I didn't know he wrestled in Impact. Frank Parker, Gabrielle, Homicide, Joey Matthews, Johnny Cashmere, Johnny Swinger, Chaos. Yes, that Chaos. Kid Crazy, Kid Romeo, Conan, Corey Williams, Lash LaRue, Matt Stryker, Mike Rapata, Rain Man, Rick Steiner, Scoot Andrews.
When was Mike Rapata there?
He had one match there, I guess.
Scary.
Taco Amori, Slim J, Simon Diamond.
Takeo Amore, he was a Japanese wrestler. He was actually pretty good.
Yeah. He showed up from time to time. In fact, it's kind of funny because Takao Omori was in that tournament that crowned the World Heavyweight Champion. I believe that was the second tournament after Douglas threw the belt down.
No, that was a different wrestler. Takeo Omori was an All Japan wrestler. You're talking about what was his name? He was you're muted, DK.
Jaden, you're crackling.
I'm crackling? Okay.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Might be the fan. I have the fan on. I can't remember what his name was now. I thought it before I went to say it, but you're thinking of the
Nishimura.
wrestler. Huh?
Nishimura.
Who?
Nishimura.
Yeah, Osamu Nishimura. That's right. Am I still crackling?
No, you're good now.
Okay, it was the fan.
Hey, I have a couple more statistics for you.
Hear him.
Of the only 3 title reigns lasted 6 months or longer during this time. All 3 of them were by Jeff Jarrett. Of the top 5 longest title reigns, 4 of them are by Jarrett. One's by AJ Styles. So he certainly dominated the thing. I mean, and certainly nobody else was able to give a chance to really shine as champion. Rhino was champion 2 days. Ron Killings had his second reign was 14 days. His first reign was 105. So that's just barely over 3 months. Raven, 88 days, so just under 3 months. Abyss was about a month and a half. Jarrett had 2 that were just over a month. Sting was 4 weeks. Christian Cage, let's see. He had 2 reigns that were about 4 months each. So nobody really had the title for any extended period of time outside of Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, the hot shot booking, that hurt more than Jeff Jarrett being champion. The hot shot booking of everybody holding barely for a few weeks. I think that hurt more. Who else was on the roster after Takeo Omori?
I think that's going to probably do it there. Let me see. I lost my place here. Yeah, so after Amori, there was Trent Acid and Vampire Warrior. So I mean, there wasn't to be honest, that first year there wasn't. There was some future stars, but I kind of agree. Like at the time, I don't think you're going to put the belt on CM Punk. I don't think you're going to put the belt on Devin Storm. You know, you're not going to put the belt on.
Especially the way they were booking Storm.
Yeah, you're not going to put the belt on like Psychosis or Christopher Daniels or any of those guys, really. There's a handful of guys on the roster that might have made sense. Obviously Ron Killings was a guy that would become potential champion or would become champion later. And then you'd have guys like Chris Harris. But again, Chris Harris wasn't the end all be all at that point either. He was, he had a decent following in Memphis, but he wasn't a big name yet, I think, in the world of the independents.
I think at the time, America's Most Wanted was bigger than the sum of its parts. It wasn't until much later that James Storm really broke out.
Right.
Well, I would say James Storm broke out more under, what was it, Beer Money?
Yeah.
When
It's all about your damn luck.
yeah, so
I mean, other than Jarrett or Sting, and was Sting the? He wasn't going to make any NWA appearances.
no, and he held it, lost it 4 weeks later to Abyss, and it was one of those screwy finishes. Apparently, they remember that somewhere in the early days, they were going to write into the contracts that titles would change hands on disqualification. So something happened where Sting got caught by the referee and was disqualified. So Abyss became champion. And it was like the only time they ever remembered that.
Sting probably painted him in a corner then.
I don't remember exactly. But then, and then that's when Christian Cage came in. So, hey, or came back, I think.
Came in, he didn't come back. He left WWE to go to Impact. And it did. It restarted his career.
That was his second title reign.
But the NWA Championship restarted his career. Nobody thought of him as a world champion until then, and then he became the WWE World Championship. Yes, he had to do it on the backs of Edge retiring, but he still did it.
Yeah, didn't hold it a real long time, but he did. That's always something that I like to, that you want to point out, that your world champion went on to be world champion somewhere else.
What other world championships happened after that? I mean, we know AJ Killings never was the world champion in the WWE.
No.
But he held the Intercontinental, US, and tag team multiple times.
Yeah. And the 24/7, about $80 billion.
Yeah, I was trying to not say that one.
Bernard brought up Gunner, but that was much later too. Gunner didn't even have a run in Impact till much, much later. And then at that point the title was already back with the NWA and not in Impact. And then he brought up Hot Stuff Hernandez. Hernandez had a run in Impact, but not really at the same level. It was under the LAX is when he was really big.
Yeah, they pigeonholed him into the tag team division, which was kind of a shame.
I liked it. I liked the LAX gimmick. I liked the whole persona. He was still green, very, very green at the time. He grew a lot under Homicide and Conan, I think.
Yeah, but even after he had grown, I mean, we're already past NWA days. But in TNA, they just kept him as a tag team guy. They never really gave him a run on a singles level.
Well, they did on his predecessor, Grand Apollo.
Would Apollo have been a good idea for the 10 pounds of gold? I mean, years later, the Savoldis wanted that to happen. In fact, they even, the On Fire title was basically a 10 pounds of gold replica. Would you have wanted that to happen?
I believe Hernandez replaced him in LAX because of him refusing to work or do the job or something. So probably not.
Jamming Music Man has a question. I don't have an answer for. I'm going to throw it to you guys if it comes up. Oh, wait. DP, that's actually, he said, are we strictly talking the Nashville days, or are we also including the time in Orlando before the NWA split?
It's everything. It's from when Shamrock won the title to Christian was stripped of the belt.
Yeah. And then Jamming Music Man was asking, do you know of anyone who might have the NWA 51st anniversary show Battle of the Belts 1999 on DVD? This is the show Gary still won the NWA title on. I would check High Spots, actually. The High Spots used to have a huge collection of NWA matches from that time frame. I've never actually seen that that show. So I mean, that's where I would guess. What do you think, Jaden? DK, do you have any suggestions?
I think I once saw it on the YouTube competitor. What was that called? You remember, like, you were able to go there back in the day when YouTube was only 15-minute videos, and you could watch hour-long videos on that channel. And now they still have like Clash of the Champions and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't
Vimeo?
know.
Was it Vimeo?
Maybe it was Vimeo.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because they also had Championship Sports tapes, which, for those of you who don't know, Championship Sports was was recorded on Monday nights in Fort Worth for World Class and shown on Saturday night. So that was their Saturday night show.
All right. So I mean, that's a pretty good look at who could have been world champion. Again, Kurt. I go back to Kurt Hennig. I think that would have been a good choice. I think Jaden and I stumbled upon that one. I think he might have made sense, but he didn't come around until probably closer to 03 or 04. Remember, a lot of these guys, a lot of the eventual guys to come over to Impact were still under WCW contracts. So I mean, like, by the time guys like Vampiro came over, or a lot of these guys were still getting paid by WCW to sit at home while those contracts were still getting paid out on.
I want to know why nobody will pay me to sit at home.
Right.
I told one of my former bosses before he retired, I go, surely I'm more valuable to you if I just stay home. Don't come and screw anything up.
Right. Well, sure.
Makes sense.
As I'm looking at the second year, I mean, they had and I'm looking at people who had more than one match, but like Mike Awesome had 5 matches in TNA, and I don't remember that. Do you guys remember that?
I vaguely do.
Perry Saturn had 9 matches. Hell, David Flair wrestled 9 times there.
Really?
Justin Credible was there for 10 matches.
David Flair is a former NWA World Tag Team Champion.
That's true.
Sure. Held the title all 2 days and caused a big fight among the promoters.
Why was that?
Because back in those days, the board was supposed to approve all title changes, and Burns just did it. And what's his name up in Canada?
Don't say it.
Not Ernie Todd, the other one.
Dave Republic.
Dave Republic, the Lush. Yeah, he actually got Burns suspended for doing it for like a week before they let him come back in or whatever.
Dave Republic, if you will.
What about Hector Garza? Would you guys have put the belt on Hector Garza?
No.
I don't remember who Hector Garza is.
He was a Spanish wrestler, kind of had like a soap opera star look to him.
He was one of those guys that he died early, right? But he had wrestled in the WWE. He wrestled for WCW. He was wrestling for AAA. I'm just looking up his stuff right now. He spent a lot of time in CMLL as well. And I'm looking right now. He spent some time in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He died kind of unexpectedly. I think he had lung cancer or something like that. And he had some visa issues. I think that's what prevented him from moving forward with Impact, is that I think he just couldn't come to the country. But
I'm looking at him now.
Yeah, he was a pretty well-known luchador. And he was like like you said, he had good looks and the matinee idol good looks. And he was built well. He wasn't like a smaller dude. He was kind of a big guy. Well, I say he was a big guy, and then I look, he's only 5'10", so maybe not. Maybe I misspoke. But for a luchador, he was a big guy.
They billed him at 209, so he was probably around 190.
Was La Parka an Impact?
That's a good question. I'll take a look.
I know when Dusty Rhodes was around, DDP was there. Would he made a good NWA champion?
I mean, I think you'd have to pull the trigger on that, but I don't think that I don't know. DDP at the time was a former WCW World Champion, so
Three times.
Now you got me looking all over the place. Diamond Dallas Page, Point Pleasant, New Jersey, matches, TNA. Yeah, I mean he was in a matchup to crown the number one contender with Monty Brown and Kevin Nash. He had a title match against Jeff Jarrett. Oh wow! I now that I'm seeing this, I absolutely would have put the belt on Diamond Dallas Page. Wouldn't you?
Depends on how long I had him for.
Bernard says no to DDP. No. Rosville DP says the first guy I could think of that would have had a long reign outside of the average of 3 months that made each champion who wasn't already a made champion would have been Christopher Daniels. Look, Christopher Daniels is a weird anomaly because he'd been wrestling forever and he was about to get a really huge push in WCW and then it didn't happen. And then he was supposed to get a really big push in the WWE and then it didn't happen. He's got so many false starts before he even got like real camera time. And he's somebody that I've always enjoyed. I've been watching him since 2000, but I don't know that he was ever going to be the NWA World Champion during Impact's time. But I mean, I would have.
Hey, speaking of pushes, World Champion, should have been,
could have been, would have been.
Yeah, let's transition a little bit out of this and let's talk about something else that's just popped up in my head.
All right.
So, Damian Wayne,
who unfortunately announced his retirement this past week.
That's what I was going to bring up. He's announced his retirement. Basically, body can't take it anymore. And so, of course, the famous story is that he was scheduled to win the world title at the dog show
event.
The no hesitation is what does it for me.
And he got screwed out of that. There are rumors that Bruce was willing to put the belt on him towards the end, but he had basically agreed he wouldn't do any title changes without the approval of Lightning One. And so Lightning One had already decided they were going to, do something with Tim Storm. And so that never went anywhere. But Jaden, since you were part of he was a former dog champion, former national champion, I think 3 different times.
And North American.
And in former North American champion.
He won the North American on the Dave Marquez show.
Yeah.
Lost it too.
And he was also supposed to go to Japan to win the World Tag Team Championships.
Lance. Oh, we don't say his name on the show.
And he got screwed out of that by his partner at the time, who was
a felon.
Yeah, lying about stuff like that till the very last moment.
He was Canadian, lying about it.
Lied about being Canadian, lied about being a lion.
Well, lied about a lot of stuff. And everything. So Jaden, why don't you give us a tribute to the now retired Damian Wayne? So I can put you on.
Damian Wayne, former also NWA Continental Champion. He held the NWA Virginia Championship, I think. Had an amazing feud up and down with Chance Prophet, with Vordell Walker, with Dirty Money. Amazing wrestler in the ring. It's a shame he never got to have that one last match in Dog. That didn't happen, unfortunately. But maybe he's just going to spend his time now playing heels.
Let's not
But,
forget that he had a series of world title matches with Adam Pearce where he literally took Pearce to the limit. I believe they had a couple of 60-minute draws, and I mean, I thought for sure at one point that Damian Wayne was going to walk away as world champion in a matchup with Adam Pearce, and that's well before the lawsuits and everything else that happened. I thought that he was destined for gold way before the NWA thought he was, made that push towards putting him as champion.
Well, my basic understanding is there was about 4 different times when he was looked at it being the world champion. They looked at him to take the title off of Pearce because of during the
7 levels
of hate, whatever.
Yep.
And everything. So there were about 4 different times that he was supposed to be, the world champion. He got screwed each and every time for nothing he did.
Right.
But because some people are freaking morons who say things like controversy sells. And, I let 2 of the people that were in charge at that time in person. I spoke to both of them and let them know that they were basically freaking idiots for making the decision that they made. Well, and of course, everybody blamed everybody else, but I saw some of the texts and some of the emails, so I know what happened.
That's because you used to work for the NWA at the time, didn't you, DK?
What? Yeah, I got the same pay as everybody else.
Nothing.
Not a damn cent.
Going back to 2007, the NWA Impact split ways. Damian Wayne was a part of the Reclaiming the Glory title tournament, losing to Chad Parham in.
That was actually the first I heard of him.
That's the first time you heard of Damian Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
And then he would have a match with Adam Pearce. I guess it was the Continental title versus the World title. The match ended on a disqualification, so there was no clear-cut winner. They would face each other again in 2008, and this time it was the first match was February, the second match was May. That match went to a time limit, 60-limit draw. The next time Damian Wayne would get an opportunity to wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold was at the nine-way elimination match at the Wrath of Champions in Clayton High School, where Cahagas mysteriously came from nowhere to not only be entered into the gauntlet, the elimination match, but to actually win it. Damian Wayne would get a world heavyweight title match against Cahagas at NWA Houston in 2012. That ended in a double countout. He was also in a number 1 contenders match for that at the Smoky Mountain Cup in 2013. That would be the 6-way elimination match where Ricky Morton would defeat Adam Pearce, Damian Wayne, Jeff Conley, Kylie O'Reilly, and Sigmund. And then the last opportunity Damian Wayne had for the 10 pounds of gold was on May 30th, 2014 at the Sawmill against Satoshi Kojima. And, of course, that was the same night that Kojima faced our pal Jeremiah Plunkett. So I feel very bad for Damian Wayne because a lot of, we've talked about it at the show at length. They legitimately took that opportunity away from him to be world champion because they thought too many of the smart marks on the Alliance blog knew what was going to happen. And I always felt like that was such a shitty thing to do to Damian Wayne. And they might have tried to make up for it by giving him opportunities with the tag titles, the North American titles, the national titles. But at the end of the day, that was a golden opportunity. That was a moment that he deserved. That should have been his time. And controversy doesn't always create cash. I don't know that the NWA was any more better for putting the belt on Cahagas over Damian Wayne. And if ultimately you wanted to have Cahagas win that title right there in Clayton, New Jersey, you could have at least given Damian Wayne a short run with the title before they shipped it off to Japan. Again, I just never really understood why they did him so dirty.
Yeah. And I know there were some things that just didn't work because of supposedly they had plans to put for Wayne to win the title from Cahagas at a Howard Brody Ring Warriors event, but then Howard left with Fred when Fred left, so that never happened.
Yeah. Just
And
ultimate victim of circumstances, really, if you think about it.
yeah, I mean, they should have done a title change in Houston. There were 2 times when they should have done a title change with them. One, when they're talking about taking off Pearce. Pearce went and actually wrestled for the promotion that Bruce Clark was associated with at the time.
Yep.
And boy, I would have called Damian Wayne. He defended the title against Rudy Russo, which, you know, fine for that area. But I would have called Damian Wayne and said, "Man, do anything. You know, we'll pay the ticket, whatever. Do anything to get down here this night. We'll put the title on you."
Wasn't Rudy Russo the Dallas Cowboys' favorite wrestler?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. And I think
he went to New Jersey to let all the New Jersey fans know that. Well,
all the Phillies, all the Eagles fans, he wanted to let know that.
Well, that's because New Jersey teams claim they're part of New York.
Matthew Underwood, our pal, who joins us with the pre-party, and the other guys stepped in today, and he says, "How many Tyrus jokes have I missed?" And 0. We haven't said a single Tyrus joke because
we haven't talked about Tyrus.
Another question that I want, since we're kind of done talking about Damian Wayne, unless you guys had something more you want to add.
No.
Can you remember a time in history for the world's heavyweight champion, at least in this modern day, since the NWA retook the titles back from Impact? Can you think of a single world's heavyweight champion that we've collectively disliked more than Tyrus?
Maybe Mike Rapata.
Mike Rapata. Okay, well, that was before Impact, but sure, we could put him in that list. So Mike Rapata, who held the title a few times, I believe. Twice. But like, I'm thinking back, like, did anyone have a problem with Hashimoto being world champion? Did anyone have a problem with Gary Steele holding the title? We talked about Gary Steele last week. Did anyone have a problem with Blue Demon? Like, I know some people didn't like Blue Demon Jr., but not collectively the same way that they have a problem with Tyrus.
I don't know that any, and I hate to say it like this, I don't know that anybody has felt
underwhelming
that the title has been on a less deserving person.
Oh, that's a good one.
Who hasn't really done anything with it. You might say Mike Rapata was less deserving. I would argue that a little bit and go that he had been a pretty loyal wrestler for, you know, some of the promoters in that area with his North American title reigns. And also he was booked, you know, he came out here to Texas at least once, if not twice, you know, for some title defenses. And, you know, some NWA promoters did use him. He was probably used more than others because, you know, he wasn't that expensive, quite honestly. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know that anyone has led to the level of the average fan out there just being completely disillusioned by the decision not only to put the title on him, but then to leave the title on him as long as they have. And he's got, 4 defenses? Because it hasn't changed yet. So whatever, 4 or 5. So what?
Rolando, Matt Cardona, Daga, and Chris Adonis. Now,
which was the last one? Was it
Adonis? Adonis was at 3-1-2. Now, would you feel the same way about Tyrus as world champion if he was at least defending the belt? Do you think, like, because one of the big complaints I hear from Billy Corgan is that it's all about politics oh, people don't like him because of his politics. But I keep efforting, like, I could care less about the man's politics. You know, I don't agree with Damian Wayne's politics, but I would have cheered gladly to see him win the World's Heavyweight Championship. But Tyrus,
EC3 has the same politics, and I'd really like to see him as champion, way more than Pearce.
I don't give two S's about his politics, but what I do care about is a guy who's held that title since November and has 4 title defenses. We're coming up on a year in November, and he's got 4 title defenses. This will be number 5. Bernard's saying 5. I'm gonna go double check, but I think it's only 4.
The only politics we don't agree with him being champion is the politics of him being Billy's friend and not being the deserving champion.
Yeah, it's politics that we have a problem with, but it's not national politics, whether he's a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, or MAGA or Duma or whatever. Our problem is that, you know, he can barely wrestle anymore.
He beat Cardona in February. He beat Rolando at a TV taping in February. In March, he defeated Daga in Mexico City. That's starting off pretty decent, you know. And then April, he wrestled Adonis, and then he hasn't defended the title since April.
April, May, June, July, August, so 4 months.
Sure, there hasn't been any defenses at the Old Country Buffet or something.
I mean, look, anytime there's a buffet on, there's the opportunity for a title defense with Tyrus.
Unification match, NWA title versus the Nathan's Hot Dogs World Hot Dog Eating Championship.
Yeah. Famous Dave's, there it is. Put him on Coney Island and put the belt on the line. Mandy, our good friend Mandy, she's a gem, says, Billy says it's all about politics. It's all smoke and mirrors. This is one of those times where I'm 100% in agreement with you, Mandy. And I'm not saying that that's the only time, but this specifically, it's if the guy was wrestling, I went to Mexico City because I wanted to see the title be defended, right? Like that was a big thing for me. You know, I could say I've seen it in Mexico, I've seen it in China, I've seen it in the US. That was very important to me. And I didn't care that it was going to be against Daga. I didn't know Daga would get hurt, obviously. I was hoping for a good match. But, you know, even if it wasn't a good match, I was still going to go because I wanted to see the history, the title being defended in Mexico City. I mean, the last person to do that was Blue Demon Jr., and that was like 15 years ago. So it's not something that has happened regularly, and throughout the history of the title, it's not something that happened regularly. So for be there for that moment was a big deal. And if he took that title after April and went to Australia, I would have been celebrating that, right? If he would have, all right, he beat Adonis and then did half of that Australian tour defending the title in Australia, I would have been one of those guys going, look at him go. Look at him go. Yeah. And even if the matches would have been bad, I would have been like, at least he's out there defending the title. But we're not even getting that. And that's what bothers me. That's what makes me so upset with this guy being champion and so upset with Billy like defending him at every turn. It's, dude, he's your boy and you're covering for him because he's your boy. Because in no other wrestling promotion in the world, even in Japan where the titles aren't defended as frequently, they don't wait 120 days in between title defenses. That just doesn't happen.
Hey guys, I got to get out of here, so I just want to say my goodbyes. Have a great night, everybody, and make sure you sign up to alliance-wrestling.com and make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if not, then DK will yell at you.
He might. Hey, Jaden, get some rest, brother. Be well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to turn to the chat real quick because they have some good things that they're saying here. Paladin says, so true, Mandy. In the Valet interview, he never mentions Tyrus in-ring criticism, but that's how you know it's a problem. James says, when I'm watching wrestling, I could care less what political affiliation a wrestler has, what religion or lack thereof one wrestler is. I just want to see the guys and gals just wrestle and cut promos. I think that's ultimately what we all want. Our pal Adam says Tyrus can barely walk, and that's why he goes months without defending. He can't fulfill his duties as champion. Bernard says Jeremiah Plunkett would be a better choice too. And Hey, I love Plunky. I don't know that Plunky's the guy to be the world's heavyweight champion, but I know for certain that Tyrus should not be the guy, which scares me to even more because now I'm worried that he's going to be the guy to win the title or retain the title anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the only hope I have is that Billy said that Tyrus is very serious about the retirement clause in the thing, and like again, maybe this is his out. Maybe this is a chance to we don't have to worry about rematches or anything like that. So in bull rope match, a lot can happen.
Well, and like you kind of said earlier too, like there is some out with that bull rope match because it can cover up a lot of the weaknesses. Again, if he can't walk, if he's having difficulty walking in the wrestling ring, that bull rope match will be able to cover up some of that, because the whole point is not to move from the center of the ring because you don't want to be dragged from pillar to post. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get why this is the hill you want to die on if you're Billy Corgan. That interview, I listened to the interview and I didn't find it as inflammatory as some other people did. I think there was a lot of him trying to be jokey with Chris Valet, especially when it came to Markova and Camille. I don't think he was really incensed about. That's not the right word. Not incest. I don't think he was really upset. I don't think he was bothered by the lack of questioning. I just think he wanted to make sure that they spent some time talking about his women's world champion, which I think was great. If I'm a wrestling promoter, I'm going to do the same thing. See, Paladin says, I think he was a prick. And I don't know. Look, I've heard Corgan interviews before. I don't feel like it was any different than anything else. I just think he's a weird dude.
Well, that's a very fair statement. I listened to it in the sense that it was on in the background as I did other things.
Yeah.
So I would just hear stuff every now and then. Nothing stood out to me that made me go, what the,
Yeah.
Let's rewind this, so to speak. But, and look, I mean, I'm not expecting Billy to go out there and go, you know what, you guys are right, I made a mistake.
No,
on him. It hasn't worked the way I wanted it to work. Shame on me. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting him to go out and defend his choice. It's just that when you're defending that choice, it's just not a lot of credibility. And it was something that he should have foreseen. I mean, remember, people were very critical of Tyrus's TV title reign. And that's why I always said, that's why I never bought into the great experiment thing. Sure. Oh, it's a great experiment. We'll put him on and we'll see if with that. But no, he spent a year as TV champion talking about the NWA and bringing his belt to the thing. The only thing putting the world belt on him is people are going, oh my gosh, that's your world champion? I mean, I don't think it filled people with inspiration. And so well, I got to go see me some of that. Again, if you're gonna put title on somebody, at least make it somebody who, and he can talk. I'll give him credit for that. He's a good talker.
He's a great talker, and that's to me that's all he is. He has great charisma and charm on the mic.
Put him in the commentary booth, and we'll do good. But you just can't. No matter how hard you try, you just can't defend him as champion in any type of believable way. And so I don't know what. I mean, I really don't know what to say beyond that. He's just. It wasn't a good move, and they need to move on.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. They need to move on.
And so let's look at this. So let's say they put the title on EC3.
Yeah.
Good move. But and take away the idea, well, they got off Tyrus, so that's good.
I think so. Like, look, there's and we didn't even address the elephant in the room, which is Tom Latimer at the end of Power saying, or maybe not the end of the Power, but saying on Power, doesn't matter who's standing with the title, Tyrus or EC3. I'm going to challenge. I'm going to cash this in for that title at 75th anniversary. So, that's, I mean, who knows who's going to be champion at the end of this Sunday night, but I feel like EC3 has a ton of upside. I feel like he's marketable. He can wrestle. His promos are, for the most part, okay. Did I like the storyline they tried to do with him and Tom? Absolutely not. But I could see value in EC3, and I could see EC3. One of the things I always say is, like, does he pass the sniff test? And that sounds so weird when you talk about wrestling, but, like, if you show me a poster of your NWA champions, on a poster, Tyrus doesn't look bad until you see him that he isn't able to walk to the ring without looking like he's in pain. But when you show me like a Tom Latimer or a Chris Adonis or even EC3, you're looking at a guy who are highly physically, like, muscular. They have, and I'm not saying I need somebody to be a WWE like replica, right? Not everyone needs to look like Nick Aldis to be world's heavyweight champion, but I certainly think that it helps your cause if you are in very good condition, very good shape. And when you look at the poster and you see EC3 on it, does he look like a guy who, me and DK could take in a parking lot? Probably not. He's a big dude. He's a buff dude. He could probably kick our ass. And at the end of the day, when I'm trying to suspend my belief in wrestling, and this was like for Trevor Murdoch, right? He didn't have to look like, a bodybuilder to be intimidating. Like, I would not want to run into a pissed off, a Trevor Murdoch. I'd be a little nervous if I saw that dude, drunk as hell, stumbling out of a bar. I would walk the opposite direction.
I mean, honestly, I'd be more scared of Trevor Murdoch than I would EC3 because, just because they're buff doesn't always mean they have strength. But Murdoch looks like he survived a few barroom brawls.
Yeah.
And everything. Well, I mean, just go back to Harley Race.
Right.
Even in his younger days, Harley Race had a belly. And, that world belt fit snug on him. But, man, you knew he wasn't somebody you wanted to mess with.
No. And even going back to, like, when I was a kid and I'm sitting there watching Ric Flair wrestle and Arn Anderson wrestle, and Ric Flair was people tend to kind of forget that he was in very good shape, very muscular for a wrestler in that era. Arn Anderson looked like he could be my dad, but Arn Anderson was one of the baddest dudes in the ring. You'd see Arn Anderson in an Arn Anderson match, you'd be like, damn, he's a great wrestler. But you wouldn't necessarily know that by looking at him either.
We were talking earlier, maybe on your when you're on
the pre-show.
Yeah, the pre-show of the
TikTok.
That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Anyway, but we're talking about difference between Stunning Steve Austin and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rocky Maivia and The Rock. But if you look at Steve Austin in his early days, he was a big muscled buff dude.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of definition, six-pack abs, everything like that. When you look at him in his megastar days, yeah, he's muscled, but he's got that, what we used to call a wrestler's body.
Yep.
Free to move around, free to do things. And, being muscled actually makes you kind of tight. And, you look at boxers, they never wanted them to be too muscled because, like I said, it can kind of make them tight and make it harder to throw the punch. And so, yeah, you don't have to be the super buff guy, but you have to look like you're a fighter. I mean, if I'm watching you, I would have to believe that, yeah, you're somebody who I could see either in a combat sport event or in a bar room busting heads. And, that was Steve Austin at the end. Steve Austin looked more like somebody who would be in a bar room busting heads.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see what they do at 93. I'm 93, at 75. I'm looking at something that has a date on it. It's 93.
Well, hey, if it makes you feel any better, Billy Corgan was wearing an anniversary 73 T-shirt when he was on the Van Vliet show.
Well, should have at least won a 74. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, what am I trying to say? I guess we're talking about, is EC3 a good choice to put the title on if we just take away the idea that anybody's better than Tyrus? And so,
yeah,
and I'm actually good with it. Just for the record, I'm good with it.
What he's trying to accomplish, both he has this wrestling promotion, Exodus Pro, and it's almost like a rehabilitation project. I feel like from what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard, wrestlers are going to that to try to change the narrative. Yes, pun completely intended. Those guys are having different looks. Wrestlers are coming to him with looking for a makeover, if you will. And we'll see it. We'll see some of the wrestlers we know and love go there and then become a different personality because they were there. And I know this because I spoke to somebody, but he's trying to change the business for a positive. And I feel like that's kind of similar with what Billy is trying to do as well, is trying to change the business for a positive. Even if we don't necessarily agree with what Billy is trying to book, what he's trying to do, I feel like in his mind, he's trying to make wrestling the way it's supposed to be, hence the tagline. And I think because they have similar philosophies, EC3 and Corgan, I could very much see that happening. And again, when we talk about the politics between Tyrus and Billy, like, look, let's be perfectly honest, EC3 is right there with Tyrus and Billy as being his friend. I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. And looking at Billy again and understanding that headlines don't always necessarily match what is actually said in the interview or article or whatever. Billy and the idea that he's thinks NWA is going to be the next WWE and big player in the thing, and all that is that just positive talk or is that delusion?
I think it's positive talk. Look,
and more importantly, what's the difference between the two?
Well, okay, so look, why do we want EC3 as world champion versus Tyrus? Okay, well, on the very surface of all of it, we know that EC3 can wrestle. Period.
Mm-hmm.
We've already acknowledged that his politics are very much in line with what Tyrus talks about. We've heard him say some pretty weird things. The whole control your narrative was linked to a very different philosophy from most modern day wrestling when they first broke out.
So it was two of the worst matches I've ever seen recently.
Yeah. And I feel like when we look at when you look at politics, yes, they're similar. You look at the obstacles that Tyrus has to overcome to become a pro wrestler. Hey, he did a lot to get to this point, but at some point, like, that can't account for what he's doing today. EC3, he was shelved with the Ethan Carter III gimmick when he showed up in Impact. His run in NXT was lackluster the second time around. He never really got those opportunities on the main roster for the WWE, but he had the look, he had the style, he had the promo. He was the carbon copy of what you would want in a WWE athlete. Like, but then you've got Billy Corgan saying on an interview that he doesn't want clones. Tell me, what's the difference between EC3, Eli Drake, and Nick Aldis? On paper, those three guys are almost identical. Aldis is a little bit taller. They all Eli Drake did a lot more. Eli Drake had more time in the WWE farm system. LA Knight had a little bit more run on the indies before being in the NXT. Aldis was almost exclusively an Impact wrestler before becoming an NWA wrestler. I mean, all three of those guys are former Impact World Champions. Billy says he doesn't like clones, but a guy he wanted to put the title on, a guy he did really good business with, and a guy that potentially he could put the title on. They're very similar in terms of look and style. I don't know. I'm hoping that we get a new world's champion on Sunday, but I'm not holding my breath for it either. You're reading the comments. Oh, well, let's get to some of the comments.
I'm reading Paladins right now.
Paladin, I want to tell you this, brother, and I don't know how old you are, and I'm not trying to be insulting, but there were literally daytime talk shows dedicated to talking about the steroids in pro wrestling. There was a lawsuit. The federal government indicted Vince McMahon over steroids back in the 80s. You can't tell me that that's a steroids or just a modern thing. If anything, it's the exact opposite. Steroids were huge in the 80s. Everybody was on the gas. And maybe Arn Anderson wasn't. I can't even say for sure that he wasn't, but everybody was on the gas in the 80s. Like that's it's almost like you almost have it backwards. And I'm not trying to be, okay, you're 40. Okay, so if you watched wrestling at the time, I mean, everybody was juicing, bro. Everybody. Flair was on the juice. Hogan was on the juice. Warrior was on the juice. Kerry Von Erich was on the juice. Kurt Hennig was on the juice. I would be surprised if Bret Hart was on the juice. Everybody was on the gas.
No, not lying. I mean, although his defense went well, he didn't even have to call witnesses. Let's remember that the reason Jerry Lawler ended up in WWF was because if he got convicted, Vince McMahon was basically going to have Jerry Jarrett run WWE.
And it was almost a foregone conclusion that he was.
Right. I mean, I think even they believed he was. How many people he had to bribe or how he lucked out, I don't know. But
I also feel like people were kind of naive back then too. I mean, I don't want to take the show in a whole different course here, but they had DNA evidence that at the crime scene of O.J. Simpson, but because DNA evidence didn't really register with the audience, the courtroom back in those days, it was still kind of new technology. People didn't understand it. Oh, well, there's DNA there. Well, they must have planted it. It doesn't really work like that. And they let OJ go because of that. Remember? Like, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying people are dumb or anything, but like, we didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
But anyway, yeah, it was, I mean, yeah, back in the 80s, everybody was
Luth says, I received direct letters from Balco Labs when I was 17. Everyone was on the gas if you could afford it. Go look at Mark McGuire pre and post his time in St. Louis. Like his time in Oakland, Barry Bonds is a perfect example. Barry Bonds, go look at Barry Bonds before and after. Oh man, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. All right. It's funny because you both said it, Matthew and Paladin. You both said the same thing. But yes, getting back to just the story at hand. Paladin says, then OJ writes a book on how how he would have done the murder. There's still the prevailing theme for a lot of people who are into the whole crime thing, that it wasn't OJ at all, but it was his son that would account for the Simpson DNA being there. So, and then that would also account for gloves not fitting.
Yeah, but again, they don't know enough about the DNA to understand that the DNA didn't say it was a relative of OJ.
Yeah, right.
It said it was OJ's.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, I guess we're going to wrap up this podcast, this live stream, by saying...
Well, we should. It's 8 o'clock. We've been going 2 hours.
Yeah, that's why I'm wrapping it up. The long and short of it is this. Jeff Jarrett, although had a lot of contributions to the impact of NWA, no pun intended, I do believe that it was a little excessive, as many title reigns as he had, and as long as he dominated the belt. I feel like Jarrett, although, as our pal Tim said, was very serviceable, was good on the mic, all that stuff is not false. I feel like there was enough to kind of spread the wealth. There was some pretty talented guys on the roster in those 4 years that they had control of the NWA World's title. The biggest name that you and I mentioned was Monty Brown. I think he definitely deserved to run with that title. So yes, I think Jeff Jarrett held the title for too much, although I think he was a serviceable world's heavyweight champion, to quote Tim. I think that we had a lot of him. And then to get back to Damian Wayne, he should have had a run with the world's heavyweight championship. And that's, I think, one of the biggest regrets of the International Wrestling Corporation era was not making sure that they took care of Damian Wayne with that 10 pounds of gold. He should have had at least one run as world's heavyweight champion. And then to wrap it all up, I think I could speak for you, DK. EC3 really needs to be world's heavyweight champion, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be a good choice right now.
And one last thing, we can celebrate Jeff Jarrett as being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Deathmatch champion.
Let's not, though.
I had the picture. I wanted to use it. I forgot to show it earlier. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we also do a podcast. And the podcast does sometimes contain material taken directly from this live stream. But you'll also find that there's a lot of fresh and original material on that podcast. If you are curious to check it out, it's at the Alliance blog on Spotify or iTunes or anything like that. Anywhere you get your podcast, check it out, because I feel like there's some good stuff going up there. And I can say that without, any hesitation, because I'm the one that's doing it. And I wait for you to say something, DK.
Hey, I'm just here to support you, my man.
You know what? God bless you. You're all right. I don't care what Jaden says. You're all right. If folks want to follow you, DK, on the socials, how can they do that?
If folks want to follow me on the socials, they should first go seek a therapist.
That's fair.
But at DKM, FWTX, practically everywhere that I am on.
Of course, we're everywhere else at the Alliance blog, and that's Blue Sky, Hive, Tumblr, TikTok, Twitch, Kick.
I haven't seen you on Blue Sky.
I'm on there. I just don't post a lot. I need to figure out a good strategy to get something everywhere. I just haven't figured that out yet. But come back on Tuesday. It'll be me with the pre-party. Wednesday will be Jeremy, Scooby, and Tim for the other Alliance guys. And then, of course, Jane, DK, and myself will be back here for the final Alliance guys live stream before the pay-per-view. I'm sure we'll have some bold predictions next week to talk about what we think is going to happen at the pay-per-view. But until next time, DK and I will see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.